Welcome to Boat Building News, the podcast Achieving Excellence, a series of incredible conversations with some of the highest achievers from around the world. I'm excited. This is going to be epic. Morning, Tony. Thanks for joining me on the Achieving Excellence podcast.
Morning, Hollie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I think probably a little less overworked than you and less tired, maybe.
Well, yeah, it's just, I suppose that's what it's all about. Everybody thinks that it's just all about getting on stage. They just see that 45 minutes, an hour, what have you, but that's the easy bit, to be fair.
Yeah, so let's just go right back to basics. Give yourself a little introduction. Tell us what it is you do and who you are.
Okay, I'm Tony Lewis. I have been a Robbie Williams impersonator, tribute, lookalike, however you want to deem it, for over 2 decades now. Travelled the world, was a former plumber, got into it by accident, and now daddy, husband, and full-time Robbie Williams, which is a bit bonkers when you say it out loud.
That is such a crazy life. I mean, obviously, you look incredibly like Robbie Williams. It's actually quite hard for me not to call you Robbie. But what always amazes me is what came first. I mean, do you look in the mirror and think, hey, I look a bit like Robbie Williams, I wonder if I sound like him? Or do you sound like him and then think, hey, maybe I could try and look like him?
Oh, no, it's probably the question I get asked most, apart from the tattoos. It was something that happened back mid to late 90s when Robbie was on the scene with Take That. See, you're a lot younger than me, Hollie, so you won't remember Des O'Connor, will you?
No.
Exactly.
Sorry.
He says it all. So he was kind of a big deal on the interview scene back in the UK, and he was interviewing Take That, and then my grandma said, "Oh, there was somebody on the Des O'Connor show last night, and he really looks like you." And I was like, "Oh, forget it, just I don't want to look like anybody in a boy band. I just want to be a footballer," and very naive. Then fast forward a couple of years, going into bars and pubs and first starting to socialise, and certain people coming up to me in bars saying, "Oh, you look like Robbie Williams," ended up being not a bad thing. And then, fast forward, wow, nearly 30 years, and here we are as our job description and as our livelihood.
So could you sing at that point? Or, did you grow up in a musical background? Could you sing or did you just...
No, I mean, this is a conversation we've had now with my children, because my mom was a nurse, my dad was a structural engineer, my brother is a joiner, I was a plumber, and my first ambition was to be a sports journalist.
Oh, really?
And then that's what I want to do, and I still like to write and stuff like that. But it was quite, you kind of hit that maturity when you get a little bit older, and I kind of got put off bizarrely about journalism because of the Princess Diana thing. And I'm not a big royalist or anything. I just found it such an intrusive business.
Yeah,
that,
harrowing.
I was just like, I don't want to be like that person. And so I just kind of went away. I actually got kicked out of college. Discovered a bit of a rebellious streak, nothing too severe. And then we just started labouring and building and plumbing. And then that led to opportunities to be able to afford to go on certain trips and things like that. But now my kids, their dad is Robbie Williams, their mum is was a very successful commercial dancer, and he's now a stylist in the music business. So he's kind of gone completely 180. I've gone from a household of nursing and building, and now my kids are in a household of entertainment and whatever level. So he's kind of strange. I mean, I did appear in the school plays and stuff like that, and I wonder if I was in a different environment whether I would have been maybe pushed a little bit more, or kind of gone for auditions, like when the stage was out back then and you'd apply to the boy band auditions. There was a couple of things like that people put me forward for and said, oh, you can sing a little bit. But it was never anything that I really envisaged at all. It was kind of something that I fell into by accident. But, sliding doors moments and, serendipity and all that. It's give us a decent life so far.
Well, you sometimes as well, there's people who are in the entertainment industry, you're right, they tend to come from families of entertainers, or at least people creative in that space. It's a little bit similar in my world. People in the marine industry they come from a family of, hey, I grew up on my boat. My dad owned this boat. My granddad owned that boat.
Yeah.
My parents didn't own a boat at all. We never went on the water. So I'm like the first generation starting that. My kids know nothing but boats. So it's kind of the same with you. You're like the first generation of the entertainment legacy that you're creating. It's quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but you see that all is kind of people who know contacts, and it's inherited, and sometimes it's good fortune, sometimes it's talent. In the entertainment business, ultimately, it's something that if you can't do it and you don't get paid for it, then you're not going to be able to make a living of it. There's obviously certain elements that you can buffer and polish and roll in glitter, I think, as the certain saying goes. But my little girl seems to have come out of the womb with jazz hands, and she seems to have got the bug. But the little boy was a lot more serious. But now, as he kind of grows up, he's just turned 8. The little girl is getting a little bit more shy because she's hitting puberty and she's a bit more conscientious about her appearance and things.
Yeah.
And yet my little boy has suddenly become a little bit of a comedian and likes the attention and stuff. So you just never know.
Yeah, you do. You never know.
Obviously they're influenced by me and by the mum and by what they see every day. And, it'll be interesting what kind of path that they take.
Oh my goodness. So do they love what you do, or are they mortified? Because my kids are mortified at what I do. They find mum the most embarrassing person on social media. So do they understand what they do? Do they actually think you're Robbie Williams?
But we've just hit that. We're just on that kind of cusp at the moment with Marnie May. She's just turned 11 a couple of weeks ago, and now it's a little bit more embarrassing. But they've just been away with me, watched a couple of shows over in Ibiza with me, and she still gets up and sings A Line of Angels or does whatever, and she still likes that. But it's quite funny because when they were going into school and they get asked the question by the parents, what do your parents do? Listen, we're from a very middle working class area up north in Manchester, and you have people doing all different kind of jobs, which we can fully relate to. But my little girl, when she first went to school, was telling the parents that her dad was Robbie Williams. Just, are you sure? And it's kind of,
what a flex.
Yeah, and he was like, are you sure about that, Marnie, mate? It's like, and then as soon as they saw us, they were like, oh no, we get it.
Oh my goodness.
So they didn't know anything else. They just thought my job title as Robbie Williams that's what I did. That's who I was. I was Tony Lewis as well. I mean, it's quite a messed up scenario you're in to try and get around when you explain it to an adult who's never known. If somebody comes up to you and says, you look like Robbie Williams, you go, oh, that's my job. They go, no way, that's an actual thing.
My goodness.
So it's difficult for an adult to understand.
Yeah.
But then when Robbie did the X Factor and we were sat at home watching the X Factor live on TV and he came on TV.
It must be like, that's you.
The kids went, who's that guy? I'm going, that's Robbie Williams. And they're going, no, you're Robbie Williams. I'm going, no, that's Robbie Williams. So it's for them to see, I suppose it's kind of the reveal on the magic, it's kind of knowing how the magic trick works. They were like, oh, right. And it was like, okay. But then kind of going on from that, we know that the kids are changing years this year after summer. My wife has just been on the Take That tour with Hollie. So,
oh my goodness. You live a different world.
So they went for like an introduction day to the new teachers.
Yeah.
And one of the kids asked the new teacher who her favourite singer was, and she was like, "Oh, it's Ollie Murs." So Rudy piped up and went, "Oh, my mum works with Ollie Murs," and she's like, "Yeah, of course he does." And it was like,
Yeah.
the teacher went, "No, she actually does." So it's like, that kind of weird thing. I mean, it helps you out on parents' evenings, and when you're a little bit later or when you want a little bit time off, you kind of play the system a little bit. But it's just a funny kind of situation to be in.
It is funny. I think my kids always think that I'm a little bit more, maybe a bit more cool than I am sometimes, because I think it was with the Taylor Swift tickets, and we couldn't get any, and they're like, "Did you tell them you were boat building news?" I was like, I actually don't think, kids, that's going to make a massive amount of difference with Taylor Swift, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah, but the kids don't have a thing, and that's what they've been spoilt rotten. And the first time I took my little boy to Old Trafford, he was like, "Why are we not in the VIP?" And it was like, "What do you mean? Why are you not in the VIP?" Like my little girl kind of has hung out backstage with Ollie Murs, Little Mix, Ronan Keating, Take That, and just chat to everybody. But in the same token, they're quite good with it. They appreciate it.
Yeah.
I imagine that it inherits just naturally a little bit of bitterness from other kids and stuff like that. But it's testament to them that they can be around in certain situations and be able to hold themselves, and that'll serve them well in the future, being able to put them in positions like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you follow what your career with Robbie? Do you follow what he looked like? Did you study his hairstyles and then try to mimic them, or is this also a little bit of your natural style rolled into it as well?
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about being Robbie. He's just a lad.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I so preferred it when he was just Adidas tracksuits and jeans and vests rather than Louis Vuitton and Gucci, because that's
Oh my God.
it's an expensive markup.
Yeah, tone it down, Robbie, if you
But
can.
obviously, that lets you put your own slant on things because of the similarity. We're both. He's got 6 years on me, but because he's a character that is, a cheeky chappy, doesn't mind having a bit of a flirt with the ladies and grabbing his ass cheeks or doing whatever. So you can relate to it, because a lot of lads my age and my generation will totally relate to that kind of 90s, noughties boy band era. And, that's where my kind of character comes from. I think a lot of it gets picked up subconsciously. Obviously, physically, you have to be in the ballpark of when Robbie went blonde, 10 years ago now, and I went blonde, and people were like, "You really like Robbie Williams, but why have you gone blonde?" It's like, well, Robbie's gone blonde. It's like, has he? People don't always know exactly what he looks like. Their muscle memory of Robbie Williams might be totally different to what you think. That's why when you go abroad, and for somebody who's maybe not in the public eye as much, if you go abroad somewhere, you'll get recognised. I know it's not good for the podcast, but using inverted commas, a lot more. If you're in a lounge at the airport, people might come up to you and go, "Oh my God," or I was once in the US Embassy in London, trying to get an American visa, and a Mexican woman came over asking for a selfie. It was like,
do you
in front of the woman who's interviewing me. It's just like, what? She's, and it happened with Liam Gallagher walked into a toilet once. So
I read about this.
Big drop. He walked into a toilet in a members club in Mayfair, and he was like, "Oh my, what are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh my, it's not you." So, and then kind of full, being able to relate to you. I'm fortunate enough to do the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on a yacht in November, December.
You had to get the boats in, didn't you?
So when I did that, the one after COVID, I went early doors, and you're in the marina. We had a beautiful spot there, and sound checked we're performing on the yacht for some Danish clientele.
Amazing.
And when I was sound checking, the woman on the next yacht was like, "Oh my God," waving, and then she was like, "Can I come and get a picture?" I was like, "Yeah." And then as she got closer to me, she went, "Oh, it's not you." And it's like, well, it is me, but I'm not. You know what I mean? It's quite a bizarre thing to be propositioned with. It's not you. Okay, right. Well, I know you think it is, but yeah, it's just, it's quite It's a lot of fun sometimes.
Yeah. So, but do you always correct them, or do you just go, yeah, cool, Robbie?
I don't
Is that
like.
what they are?
I don't like being the thing on. I think you're setting yourself up for a massive fall for going, oh yeah, I've only ever done it once and I feared for my life a little bit. So
Oh my God,
it
really?
was, I just, and being young and, when people are guest listing you up and stuff like that, you're with your mates and they're going, come on, because they're at no risk. But you're just there. So you can't not fail, with now the internet and social media and Robbie being so popular on social media, they'll just do a quick check, see that he's not necessarily in Doncaster on a Friday and go, so yeah, it just, we do kind of, obviously there's an apparent likeness and we can play on that, but it's not, I don't suppose it's a bad person to look like either.
No. I imagine it's open. Imagine if you were a young, in your earlier career days, young single man, I don't imagine it did you any harm.
Yeah, people think that, but I was, there's been an occasion, but it's not something that I've really milked on that front. That was always a popular question if you ever did any press, but I think I was a bit of a rogue before then, so I think if anything, it calmed me down a little bit.
But it's, in real life, like being real, it opened the door for you to meet your wife. I assume that's how you guys met.
Yeah, and she couldn't stand Robbie Williams at the time, so it was like, oh, he is thinking he's Robbie Williams, and I don't like the real one, so definitely don't like him. So that was a work in progress. Sometimes she still doesn't like me now, so that's just married life. But yeah, she's super cool. She's good with it. I think if you're with somebody within the industry, it's something that they can relate to. They know that it's a character and it's a facade, and it's all pretense. It's not necessarily, if you're flirting with somebody on the front row, it's not something that's genuine, or she hopes it's not anyway. So
yeah, you might want to have a word with Matt about that, because I think he needs to still learn that a little bit.
Well, how to flirt, or
no, how to not take my social media seriously.
Yeah, but I think it's hard. It's when you, especially when you love somebody so much. I remember having to go and watch Shalina dance on shows with very good looking boy bands or doing what have you, and and some of the boy bands would play on, see me, and kind of go, give me a bit of a wink, and I'd be doing things that are just like you do with your mates, not just doing stuff, and that's just trust, and that's any relationship. I imagine that there's a lot more office romances than goes on.
Oh my goodness!
And things that it's just part and parcel of life.
I think it's that appreciation though that I imagine when you're on stage as Robbie Williams, same as when I'm on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. That is actually that's Hollie as boat building news. That's not the real Hollie. And you Tony as Robbie is not who you are. I imagine when you're chilling at home with your wife and kids, and you're actually the real Tony Lewis. So it's just that subtle making that line, isn't it? It's a performance, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, but in a nutshell, like social media for anybody, whether they're in the industry or not, is just a facade. It's not real life.
Oh my goodness, so true.
I mean, some people, I try and keep as genuine as I can. If I have a bad day, I might post about it. I'm a big advocate and enthusiast for, mental health and things like that. And, that's kind of integral to be able to be honest that you have down days and that you're not feeling it, or you might have had an amazing gig or a fantastic experience and you're going to crash off that. Regardless, it's, I've only started drinking coffee this last 5 years, and just, that's what you always want. You wake up and go, oh, I need a coffee. Whereas in the past, that's been something else, or, maybe a little bit of an addictive personality. But like you say, it is just a character. It's all just a pretense, and you just play on it a lot of the time. You just take things at face value.
I think I need to work on mine being a bit more real. So I think if you see my social media, people just think I'm on the super yacht, like on a casual Saturday lunchtime, and I'm not. And that I absolutely, adore my life, and I wake up bouncing and bubbling every day. I don't.
Exactly, and for the amount of times you're integral, and yachts and boats are integral to your industry and your livelihood. That's your job. It's part and parcel of your life. But I imagine that you spend a lot more time cooking for the kids, picking piles of washing up, and if you're anything like her, I was complaining about leaving shoes lying around the kitchen. You probably do a lot more of that, but it's not necessarily something that's going to work on the grid. You know what I mean? So and that's it. But that's relationships, and that's full-time life. That's the balance.
Yeah, it's not all as glamorous as it looks. So do you know that Robbie Williams aware of you? Do you know what I mean? Does he know what you do?
Yeah. We've worked with and for Robbie a few times, and
oh my goodness,
he actually he was, speaking of the social, he was on Instagram a few years ago, and we'd been in Ibiza at the same time, and we were like walking around the hippie market, and the missus was like, "You're getting a lot of attention today." And, sunglasses on, hot, but vest on, and we've got similar tattoos, not the same. And people are like, double checking. Like I say, again, you're in a foreign country, a lot of tourism and a lot of tourists from all around the world.
Because it's the kind of place you would imagine he is as well,
Yeah. And then we got a message saying, "Have you seen that Robbie's in Ibiza?"
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a bit of sense. And then the week after, he was on Instagram having a chat with somebody on an Insta Live and said, "I was on holiday in Ibiza and I went to watch a Robbie Williams impersonator." He said, "But I got the wrong night." He said, Tony, I'm really sorry. He said, "I saw you at the bar, I turned up and I got the wrong fucking night." So, but it's a nice little soundbite, and it means that he's appreciative, and that's then incorporated. I got asked if I had a question for him, what would it be? And my question was, if somebody walked into a bar, who would it be that made you stop in your tracks? And he actually said that nobody would make him stop. He kind of is in the zone and he kind of goes on. So he was lucky that the question actually got asked. But that was kind of my point, that if I was singing a Robbie song and performing as Robbie, and he walked in the bar, it'd be like, "Oh, fuck, what are we doing now?" It's like, it's kind of it'd be such a bizarre situation. So, he's very aware, but he's very supportive. We can refer to social media as much as we want, but he could absolutely kill me on there. He could bring me down and say, "I don't like it, I don't endorse it." But he's very different, and that's probably the biggest compliment I can ever get.
Well, it's a compliment for him, surely. It's just human nature, isn't it? If someone wants to be like you, do you know what I mean?
I think is that a bit of a saying that, like,
imitation is the
biggest form of flattery.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a line that's been used on interviews and pods we've done and things like that. I think the first time I heard that was when we did like a Robbie special on Channel 4. And, that had coincided with meeting him a couple of weeks before that. And it literally, it's been weird because when he kind of has taken a step back and, even talked about retiring and stuff, but then when he comes back, it's strange because I remember a girl I was seeing at the time was kind of saying, "It's really weird. He's making a comeback and you've never gone away. You've been like consistent." I mean, touch wood, for every year seems to be getting bigger and better and, building. And that's testament to Robbie's character and his songbook. And his, I'd like to take a little bit of credit on me as well. You've got to be able, like I adhered to at the beginning, you've got to be able to be good enough to do the job. It's no point just being able to go on and then die on your ass. And which has happened on more than one occasion. But
oh my goodness, really? So what's been your most memorable performance? Is there one performance that's stuck in your mind that you've gone like, "Oh my goodness, this is a pinch me moment"?
I have. I think as I get older and I arguably become wiser, I think I take those moments in a lot more, especially post pandemic when it kind of all got taken away from us.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that was awful.
I think that we made to appreciate it, because there are nights that, you drive and doing 500, 600 miles a day on the road on your own, which is my choice. That's what I want to do. I don't want toilet stops and pit stops and cigarette breaks for anybody else. I don't smoke anyway. But it's, the Abu Dhabi one, when the fireworks are going off and it's the last race of the season, and, you've got 60 crazy Danish guys bouncing along and you're just performing and looking out and the cars going around the track. That's I suppose superficially, that's pretty amazing. But you might do something for a birthday party that is a really special moment. I sang Angels at a cancer charity down in Bournemouth earlier in the year, and a guy messaged me and said that was the last time he ever was able to dance with his mum as a terminal cancer patient. And so you kind of, that is so bittersweet, but he thanked me for that moment. And it's kind of, that sounds very dramatic, but that's the power of music, especially with a song such as Angels, that means so much to so many different people in so many different kind of mediums and ways and demographics.
So, well, you spoke about Angels, the song there. Do you have like a standout favourite that you absolutely love to perform?
Yeah, Come Undone is my go-to Robbie song.
I love it. It's on my running playlist.
Because the video is amazing. The lyrics are fantastic.
Yeah.
Something, if you've kind of taken, I've not been the whitest of white in the past, so you've been on benders and taken drugs, and don't do that, kids, by the way, and drank and gone on 3-day binges or done whatever, and then come down yet again from that high, regardless of what it's induced by. And it's relatable. That's the power of music, is that it's kind of a sixth sense. If I smell a certain smell, I can sometimes be taken back to my dad taking me to Old Trafford for the first time, or, something that I've eaten, or a place I've been, or something like that. And music is the same. I remember I listened to Angels for the first time. My friend, who I've been best man for twice, big shout out to Chris P, because he was a bit of a game changing moment. Yet again, a sliding doors moment. He recorded live through a lens and put it on a tape, because yet again, do you remember Walkmans?
Do you know what? I've had a similar conversation before. So, because Matt always talks to me about cassettes. I've got no idea. So I remember
cassettes.
Yeah. Do you know what? He laughs at how I say it as well. Cassettes.
Into the caravan. Cassette. Yeah.
Cassette.
Like that.
I can remember the CD version. I had one of those.
The Discman.
Yeah, that's it. A Discman. Yeah.
So the one before that, if you're like a 70s, 80s kid, my mate, Chris, had put it on, recorded it onto tape, which is probably illegal as well. And I remember walking down to my girlfriend's at the time, and Angels came on, and it just started snowing. And it was like, wow.
Oh,
a real moment where I was just, boom. And there was a thing, if you had a posh Walkman, there was a thing called AMS that rewound to the previous track. Because otherwise you'd you couldn't. It's not like just CD where you can skip it. See, this is when I'm turning to my dad when I'm talking about stuff like this. And so I just AMS'd it back to Angels, and I was like, oh my God, this is a song. And then unbeknown, you know, it's a song that not only, I say this a lot of time on stage, it's a song that not only changed Robbie's life, but in the process just changed mine.
Really? Oh my goodness. It's mad, isn't it? How, you know, certain moments in your life you could go back to and think that was a pivotal moment. That is a moment that, and it can be the most trivial thing, like listening to a song or, you know, and it can just, you know, really, you can almost pinpoint it, like tiny parts of even your childhood, and you can think that changed things.
Yeah, Robbie had been dropped by the label until they released Angels.
Oh, really?
If it hadn't been released, who knows what would have happened to him? You know, as a person, never mind as a celebrity and as a superstar. Yeah. You know,
what would you have done? You'd be a plumber still.
Well, yeah, but you know, who knows? Maybe I would have wrote me on and become a superstar myself.
Well, this is also something that really confuses me. So, obviously, you know, in Matt's line of work, you know, I see a lot of live music and a lot of tribute bands, and I look at them and I think you are an incredible talent in itself. You know, I've seen you perform. I've seen Navi, Vicky Jackson as Pink, and I look and I think, do you not just want to be Tony Lewis or Vicky Jackson? You know, because you are talented in your own right.
Yeah, but I think this is the double-edged sword of, if I kind of went for a talent show, I would always just get compared to Robbie. And there's only one Robbie Williams, and I'm not as good as him. There's some facts you've just got to think, you know. I've got better teeth than him, and I can go and get a beer or go to a bar and not get hassled. I can get people double-checking, and them are things that are kind of, you know, are good for me. I think that probably I would struggle with the celebrity, and people think that because of the amount of money that people get paid, they think that it's an excuse to be able to, you know, abuse or hate on people. Yet again, society can be nasty. It can also be really, really beautiful. But for me, I'm really content. I think that this is what I was meant to do. I'm a big believer in that. I do like to write, and you know, me and my little girls sometimes sit at the piano and just have a play about.
I saw some of that last night, actually. It was
and it's just nice, and it's just my kind of standard of life has never been celebrity, but it's always been an underlying moment of it. A lot of it due to the nature of Shalina's work as well.
Yeah.
But what I do allows me to travel the world, meet amazing people, you know, like, you know, just people like Matt and yourself, and, you know, whether it be people I've become friends with. I'm still friends with the lads who I've played football with, you know, 40 years ago. And so it's just a job, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
That's what it is. But I'm so content in what I do. And would I want, I think the only thing for me is the financial, if I had the financial security, and you know, our job's not a bad paid job, but it doesn't mean I could retire tomorrow.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I probably wouldn't, because I love what I do so much.
Yeah.
If I won the lottery, I would still cherry pick a lot of gigs throughout the year and still go out and perform, because I enjoy it so much. And I need that mentally, physically, emotionally. I always need that. So, you know, but I think the only thing would be hearing something that you wrote play on the radio or somebody else perform. I think that'd be an unbelievable experience.
Oh my goodness, wouldn't it just?
And, you know, you never say never. I might write something that gets into somebody, or, you know, maybe I'll write something for the kids that then go on to have successful recording careers. You know, you just never know.
Just don't, do you?
It's, you know, but I think being content, and I know that you spoke on previous episodes about success and happiness, and, you know, happiness isn't success, success is happiness, and vice versa. I just find myself at the moment at 44 really thankful, very content, and you know, incredibly lucky, but incredibly hardworking as well. I think it all comes as a package.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying sounds amazing. So you've painted this picture that it is insane, it's so exciting. But what's the worst part of it? Like, what's the biggest challenge of it that you think, oh gosh, this is why I hate it?
People at airports.
Oh, really? I did not expect that. You didn't even take a second to think about that either. Straight back.
You know, I
Why?
saw the thing, somebody pop up and saying, you know, there should be 2 queues at airports, one for people who've travelled, one for people who've never travelled before in all their life. But,
Really?
you know, it's just simple things, and that's an ignorance on my part, because
Okay.
the majority of the time that I'm at an airport is to go to work.
Yeah.
A lot of other people are there for that one time of the year that, you know, they've worked hard to experience. They've got the brand new trainers on, you know, they're having a great time. They've got the brand new suitcases. Mine's absolutely battered and full of
Yeah. Same.
stickers, and you know, and I'm kind of knowing how the security works. I know which line to be in. Like I'm probably horrendous to travel with. When I flew with a family, and my wife's just going, just slow down. I'm just going, just get in the fucking line, you know. But it's still, like, I'm flying later today from Southampton, so I know that it's kind of a flippant comment, but people are what make this industry possible. I say every single gig, without people coming to live entertainment, live venues, bars, restaurants, the industry just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I can't be too harsh on people, because then people pay my wages ultimately.
Well, and also we did have that taken away from us, which is quite rare in someone's career. Like, it would be so easy if COVID hadn't happened and all of those lockdowns. It's probably quite easy for someone like yourself or like me to go through life just taking it for granted, but we had it so suddenly ripped away from us. Do you know what I mean? So actually, we're in quite a good position to go, well, I can't take what I do for granted, because it could easily be turned off like the flick of a switch, because we know it had.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the bigger answer is that the gig is the easy bit. Getting to the show, whether that in traffic or setting up or an obstacle or there might be an accident. You know, I can be really impatient, but if you're on the M6 and traffic stopped because of an accident, you've got to think, well, at least I'm sat here waiting rather than sat in the accident. You know, you just kind of a younger me would still be kind of effing and jeffing on the motorway and beeping the horn and, you know, just very naive and very immature. And listen, that still happens. We make a lot of hand signals during. I'm sure the kids could play Dad's Car Bingo, saying, you know, indicate or blah blah. You know, that's it. But that's everyday life. There's no way we go back to the taster days for the school. My daughter goes to high school in September, and on her taster day, I had to drive her to school. We've been lucky enough to walk to our local school most days, which is always a great start for me in the day.
Yeah.
But getting up that bit earlier and then being sat in that school traffic, I was like, oh my God, who does this every single day? And it's like probably 70% of the population.
Yeah,
You know, and I'd rather set off an hour earlier and get to the gig 3 hours earlier. You know, if that makes sense. Whereas if you'd set off on time, you'd take that extra time. So it's part and parcel of it. The travel is probably the worst part of the gig.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. What's your confidence levels like? Because I know that, you know, people who put themselves out there like you do, there's always sometimes a misconception that you're super confident, you know, you don't have an ounce of anxiety and everything like that. And people think that about me, because, you know, I'm always, I'll jump on camera, Hollie will do some filming. Behind the scenes, like, imposter syndrome is sky high. My confidence is rock bottom. You know, what's it like for you? Do you struggle with any of that?
Panic attacks. I started to experience those just coming back after lockdown, traveling again. I remember sitting in Schiphol Airport, connecting. I'd flown.
It's one of my favourite airports, by the way.
It's so big. I'd flown Oslo to Schiphol. and I was going to Schiphol, Manchester. It was the first time I'd been away properly since resumption. And during lockdown, I lost my grandma and my nan, or my nan and my grandma in that order, within 22 hours of each other.
Wow.
And I'd very much been, it was non-COVID, both natural causes. They both had great lives and, made my childhood pretty amazing. And I tried to hold on to that and was very thankful of, being lucky enough to have two grandparents for over 40 years of my life, effectively what I would hope to be half of my lifetime. And that was the first time, and it was just got me thinking. And it also, you've got to be honest, after the gig, we drank with a client quite heavily and come back and just started thinking. And yet again, the downside of the power of music, listening, noise cancelling out, just taking every single note and lyric on your ears, and just started breathing kind of heavily and getting a panic, and just sat in Schiphol Airport, unable to move, unable to breathe, and crying my eyes out in front of lots of people going, that guy looks like Robbie Williams. He also looks like he's having a bit of a mental breakdown.
Oh my goodness.
And then kind of had to get home. Powered through it. That was the first one I'd ever experienced.
It's hard, isn't it?
I was kind of conscious about. And then, that's probably something that, like you just said, people think that you're very confident. There's a certain DNA of people who need to be in the industry. That whether that's people who want to show off, whether people just love to sing. I hate singing. I love performing. It's a very, I'm probably in the wrong job. Two very different things. Love entertaining, love the interaction with the crowds and the audiences. But, being away, if I'm not like that off stage as I am on stage, people will automatically think that I'm ignorant rather than shy.
Yeah.
And it was actually the same girlfriend who mentioned about Robbie being away that came up with this when I was chatting to her about it a long time ago. She said, people do have like a misconception about you being ignorant. And listen, I can be ignorant and I can be rude and I can be very self-absorbent, but I can be very self-aware, most of the time. She said, but if you were a lot uglier, people would then just go, he's shy. And that's not me saying I'm the best looking person in the world. And by far, definitely not. But I know that, I'm not the ugliest person in the world as well. And that will sound terrible as an actual soundbite on this. But
I need to agree with you at this point, I think. It might make it sound a bit better.
It's what?
I need to agree with you at this point. You're fit, Tony. You are fit.
The point is kind of that we are superficial beings.
Yeah.
And if I was somebody who was sat there reading a newspaper that was a broadsheet or doing whatever, and I was made to look in a different way, people would probably have a very different perception of me, rather than being somebody with a mohawk and tattoos and a vest and thinking, oh, he's pretty full of himself. And it's, I can have my moments, like I said, but a lot of the time I just want to step back, and I'll always have as much time as I can for people who support me and support entertainment. That's kind of an absolute given, that, like I said, the people who pay your wage, you've got to invest in them as much as they invest in you. Just integral. That's why I'd like to think that we've got the longevity of over 2 decades in the business. And I know that not everybody likes me. The power of not giving a fuck is very hard to kind of put into practice. I know that because I care. I care what people think.
Oh my goodness, I relate to that so much. Yeah. So it is really strange, because I think people, people see me confident Hollie on camera, but honestly, I mean, oh my goodness, like probably only Matt actually knows how many airport panic attacks I've had. I can remember ringing him from Gatwick, and I was flying to Cam, and he just dropped me off, and he must have been maybe 10 minutes up the road, and I said, "You've got to come back." I said, "You've got to come back and get me. I can't do this. I couldn't breathe. I was crying." Similar story to you at Schiphol. And do you know what he said to me? He'll kill me for this. He said, "Hollie," he said, "have a look around." I look around. He said, "Can you see a champagne bar?" I said, "Yeah." He went, "Go and get yourself a glass of champagne." he said, "Go get yourself a glass of champagne and ring me after." And I don't know if that's official advice I should give to anyone, but do you know what? It worked.
Yeah. Well, but that's because he knows you as well. And he obviously loves you and supports you. And it's kind of, I remember I was sailing. We can go to a boat thing again. I was on a cruise. And at the time, I was
thinking we won't talk about boats as well.
Yeah. These are big boats, but not privately owned. I was middle of the night, woke up, wasn't speaking to my dad at the time, and woke up to go to the toilet, turned on the light, and as I turned on the light, all I saw looking back was my dad staring back at me, and I was just like, in the cabin on my own, and I then had to dial reception, bearing in mind you're floating in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, and asking for an outside line to ring home. And I rang my mum, and she was like, we were 4 hours behind, so it would have been something like 5 o'clock in the morning there. So when she's getting a call from a cruise line, and she's like fearing the worst, and I just had to chat to her. Like, my mum's one of my best friends. She's an amazing kind of person, amazing woman. And, that's it. You have a go-to, and it's good that it's not good, but it's reassuring knowing that you have a support network, and there's tricks, the breathing, the in for four, holding out. Just, you kind of, when you're not used to it, and thankfully it took over 40 years for me to have an official panic attack. And then, I had friends that I posted about it because I wanted people to know that it happens. It just, and that if it happened to somebody else, that it's all right to deal with it and speak about it. Yet again, advocating mental health and speaking about it and speaking out. And the amount of people who messaged me privately and said, "Oh my God, I don't know how you can post like that and be so blunt about it." And I've not got the bravery to do that. Not that I'm a brave person for doing it, but I think it's a lot more popular.
Yeah, but the thing is I think there's more people that experience those feelings but don't then talk about it because, well, I mean, look at me. So most times I'm at an airport, I probably feel like that. If I'm having a really busy, overworked week and I'm podcasting a lot and I get socially overwhelmed very, very easily, I will probably have a couple in the evenings through the week. Would never would, if even if some of my best mates then text me going, "Hey, how's your week going?" I'd always go, "Yeah, it's going great. It's busy, but it's good and everything." I would never go, "Well, do you know what? Actually, I'm actually suffering with panic attacks this week." The only people that would know about it is probably the people living in my house. So it's mad, isn't it? There's probably a whole host of people. It's probably so common, but more common for people to do it privately and not talk about it.
Yeah, and it's something now that kind of worries me. We're talking about the kids inheriting like the showbiz gene, is that they inherit that kind of mental demeanor as well.
Yeah,
it's something we're very open about. Like, my little boy is sulking and he won't speak to me about it, but that's just a little boy sulking, that he's not got his own way. But also, if he can't speak to me about his emotions, then it's a good time to speak about being able to talk, especially the people who are closest to him. But he's only 8 years old, so you don't want to scare him by going, "Well, one day you're going to have a panic attack and you're going to be screaming and you don't do that. It's how you approach it. But being able to speak about your emotions as a dad, as a parent, as as somebody, yourself as a parent, they're the most important people in the world to you. It's just, if they can't confide in you, then then that's kind of the biggest failure that I'd ever want to never want to come across. And
Yeah.
that's all about progressing. Whatever you want to do about being successful on stage or in professional life, my kids are my greatest achievement. They're my proudest moment.
Yeah.
And I just hope that they're going to be better versions of me. That's an individual with that as well. I think that's the old kind of ethos of reproduction and life in general. That's probably going off course a little bit. But,
although, do you know what I learned? I learned when I look at my kids now, so I've got 3 girls, and I like to think I've brought them up, at least similar. There's some similarities in their upbringing, maybe got a bit looser as it's gone on. But, I look at them and I think, I thought I was creating little versions of myself. And then I look at them and I think, oh no, you are actually like your own person.
Yeah,
You're not like your sisters, despite bringing you up the same. You're not.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to have like a little army of Hollies. Format, but it's not like that at all. Do you know what I mean? So although you do think they're going to be better versions of you, also they're just going to be like their own best version of themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, they've both got their own personalities. I mean, that's what I do now. I kind of try and, whether it be wrong or right, try and give them things that I didn't have.
Yeah.
I had a really good upbringing, middle child of 3, which has its own kind of connotations. I say EMC, evil middle child.
Yeah.
And, my parents split when I was 16, 17. We had family holiday every single year, which now is kind of something that's integral to me, to get away with the family as much as possible, because they're the memories that I relate to and smile upon and are fond about. That's like the big thing, like probably the holiday every year. And it was a happy household. My dad worked hard, my mum worked, and it's kind of putting that working ethos into practice for my kids as well. It's just that we do have a nice life a lot of the time, but that comes with sacrifice of us both working away. Our network of my mum especially, and her partner, who's a good friend of mine, they give up big chunks of their week to kind of come and move into the house and have 3 nights at ours. They've got their own room. They've got full access to our place. It's as much their house as it is ours at times, even more so.
Down to mine for a bit. Help me out.
Yeah. And I know that probably brings a lot of envy, because support network, being a parent or whatever you want to do, if I wanted to go off and try something, or when I tried to break tour Australia early in the year and doing things like that, and went and did an 8-week stint in Helsinki last year, and without the support network back at home, it's just impossible. Yeah,
and I think that back to that sort of vibe of taking things for granted until you don't have that. So I mean, I'm not even shy about it. I had a horrible upbringing, and I don't have parents, and we don't neither does Matt. So we have none of that. So when people go, oh, my mum's, she's really irritating me because she's doing this with my kids, and I'm like, at least she's kind of there, like, helping them out, whereas everything we have us, and that's it. But but we don't know any different. So but there is an appreciation if you've got that support network. Oh my goodness, it's so valuable, so valuable.
But like you said, your kind of goal was to give your kids the upbringing that you necessarily didn't have.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like when they are adults and they're going their own way, and they've got their own children, whatever way that is, whatever setup they have. Oh my goodness, I'm going to give them every bit of support that I didn't. Do you know what I mean? And that's my goal. That's kind of what motivates me in it.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of the ethos I'm trying to explain, that, and hopefully they'll then, that's evolution. I'm scared that as society we are kind of going backwards. Just kind of scares the life out of me. Just whether it be on politics, on race, on just the lack of empathy from people, is kind of concerning. Because I think that, we've got technology, we've got opportunity, we've got accessibility, and I find the lack of accountability at the moment and that's something that I've suffered. I've been, unaccountable for a lot of my poor actions And yet again, you grow older and you try and learn from them mistakes. And, but I find it alarming at times. And it's just, I can only focus on me and mine and hope that they can, change their little part of the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, I could probably talk to you all day, but I know you probably haven't got all day to do that. But I'm just going to finish with one last question, if that's okay. It's my favourite question of the whole episode. What one quote do you strive to live by?
Okay, I put this on, and I knew you were going to ask this question because I listened in on a few. So the quote, and I only saw this a couple of weeks ago, but it then related to so much that I've planned for the summer because of schedules. Instead of going on a big 2-week holiday that we've been, lucky enough to do in the past, that we were going to do little trips and, make things work. And that's not necessarily something that's a financial obligation. It might just be a walk to the park or a bike ride or something that's free for us. We're lucky, I know. So the quote is, you can't add days to your life, so add life to your days instead.
Oh my goodness. That's quite sobering, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And do you know what? All these episodes that I do, I think this might be, we've got to be knocking on for episode 50 now for this podcast. No one's ever doubled up a quote. And
it was either that or it was chat shit, get banged.
Yeah, I like them both for different reasons.
No.
I do, I love it.
But let's go with the first one.
No, we're ending on the second one. What a way to end the podcast. Thank you so much, Tony. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Lots of love.
See you later. Bye.
I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating or a review. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen to us again. See you soon.